you, Nicholas and Yulia, for joining me here today. We are going to be talking about how to contribute to the academic success of international students while they're studying here at Norquest. Both of you were very instrumental in getting this project off the ground. Yulia, you were involved on the CSL side, the community service learning side of how this project could be done at this college. And Nicholas, you are the sponsors. You were over at the International Center. So I'm very grateful for both of you that we could do this. So we'll begin with a little Q&A with each, and then I will get to the actual presentation where we're going to talk about the research project itself, how it was carried out, and some of our main findings and our plans for the future. So with that, let us begin. Okay, so let me begin with this question for you, Yulia. What is your position at Norquest, and what are your main duties?
Okay, my position at Norquest College is called Community Service Learning Faculty Developer. What I do most of the time I do work with instructors and community organizations in order to create community service learning projects that are built into courses as assignments. So the goal is twofold. On the one hand, we are looking at meeting the course learning outcomes for the students. And the second goal is to bring value to the community. So CSL is meant to be a win-win partnership. That's in essence what I do.
How about if I turn to you now, Nicola?
Sure.
What is your position in Norquest, and what are your main duties?
My name is Nicholas Martin. I'm the team lead for engagement and settlement services at Norquest International. I oversee a team where we focus specifically on the settlement and engagement part. Settlement, understanding everything a new international student or a current international student needs for settle their life in Canada. We're looking at a lot of services for newcomers like accommodation, housing, how to find a job, contact them with a career center, etc. And on the settlement part, on the engagement part, it's more about how to help students to connect each other, between other internationals, between Canadian students, between their peers inside and outside Norquest, being super advocate for their mental health and their mental well-being.
I'd like to ask you now, Yulia. You're doing community service learning. I'm not sure if everyone that might be watching this presentation would be aware of exactly what that is. They are probably aware of work integrated learning because that's, pretty ubiquitous, but I'm wondering, could you tell us a little bit more about community service learning?
Absolutely. As for work integrated learning, I know there might be some confusion. Work integrated learning, community service learning. Work integrated learning is an umbrella term for a whole host of experiential learning opportunities. And these opportunities include, for example, co-op, work experience, clinical placement, and micro-will opportunities, CSL being one of those micro-will opportunities. In essence, work integrated learning connects academic experience to the real-world opportunities. And at Norquest College, we have over 30 programs that offer various will opportunities for a variety of subject areas, from business to health to community studies.
Excellent. I want to ask you, though, how did you see this research on international students fitting in with the other CSL projects that are going on at Norquest?
I have to say that every community service learning is very unique and very specific to the subject area and the community need that is being addressed. So it is really difficult to say how it is fitting in terms of how it has been executed and the outcomes. But I can say that there are some criteria that have to be fulfilled in order for the project to be a CSL project. In terms of the length, every community service learning project has to take between 5 to 20 hours, which includes the entire CSL experience. It's not just the project, but there are also some other components. Probably I will speak about them a little bit later. Then a community service learning project has to meet some of the course learning outcomes, and it has to benefit the community. And you asked me how does it fit? Again, it's such a breadth and such a variety. For example, this term only, I have had projects from business communication to recruitment and selection to solid waste management. So everyone is very unique.
And Nicholas, how do you see this research fitting in with the other things that the International Center is doing?
Actually, for us, this was an amazing experience to partner with you. I remember we were working with a class of students and they were doing their own project. And that project for us was like a second view or a different view for something we have already made some research. At the international office, we have a SIF project, that's a Strategic Innovation Fund. We focus on two different research, 2022 and 2023. One was seeking for affordable accommodation and the other one was the sense of belonging. So we tried to understand which are the things the students need from our research point of view. And then here, it's like we could see the other part of students doing their own investigation and see how everything leads to the same outcome. So it was very interesting for us see how the students can work themselves, learn in the process, and of course getting that information to complement whatever we already have.
So it was like triangulation for you.
It was a triangulation, but with that extra step that you feel you're helping students to learn how to make a research, how to portray the questions, how to make the surveys, how to come with the analysis and the situation, and then using that small scope the students were using to put in contrast with the bigger research from the university scope and say, hey, all these points are together. Maybe at some specifics you have like the different sides of the coin, but it was very, very important.
Julia, what are some of the strengths and weaknesses of doing community service learning projects in a post-secondary setting?
I have to say that every post-secondary institution is different, and I know that community service learning practices and frameworks, they might vary to respond the needs of those educational institutions, and also depending on how work integrated learning opportunities are being viewed and addressed and shaped. Speaking from my experience at Northwest College, community service learning is instrumental in helping the students build their workforce relevant skills. This is the biggest goal, the biggest objective. And I believe the CSL framework, as it has been developed in the college, strongly supports this, how this works. We do have an introduction to community service learning where we are so intentional speaking about building their transferable skills and also some hard skills and working with community organizations. We do meet our community partners also to talk to the students, get them excited, get them learn about the organization. Then the students engage in the project itself. And then the final component, and we believe the most important, is called critical reflection session, because this is where the learning gets solidified. This is where the students are able to articulate their skills, and this is a big self-awareness piece, which I'm just so passionate about. In terms of weaknesses, challenges, I would say maybe it's more from the project management perspective, because I have to be essentially a project manager in this situation. So all parties have to be engaged in order to make it a successful experience. And sometimes I have to be really agile, ready to pivot and adapt to changes in circumstances, work with multiple timelines, just to ensure that the projects are on the right track.
Wow, a lot of things going on. Kind of makes me reflect myself right now. Maybe I could have been a little bit more engaged at times. Anyway, thank you, Julia. And what do you think were some of the weaknesses of this particular project study design?
Okay, sure. Weaknesses. Okay, I wouldn't view it as a weakness, more as an opportunity. What I want to say, this project, it was a very brave project because it was one of the very few CSL applied research projects. And we are well aware that not all the students, and actually quite few students, do have research skills at this stage. So they need to learn, they need to understand what it means to formulate a research question, what it means to come up with appropriate methodology, how to collect, record, and analyze data. So there's a whole set of skills, very necessary, very important skills, and yet they might be completely new to many students. So this was an opportunity to engage the students in a very, I would say, gentle and exploratory way in the world of applied research. And now that they have a taste, they have tried it, I think they can venture into more robust research design and do more. But I think it was a wonderful, wonderful starting point. And I'm very grateful that Yosif and Nicholas were so brave just to venture that and carry out. And I have to say that students were so proud of their work, and they put a lot of themselves into this project. That's for sure.
No, you're absolutely right. This is applied research. I didn't realize it was not being done as much as it was. I mean, I thought it was being done more. And in fact, that is one of the reasons why the college wants to do this research going forward. It's going to become a scholarship of teaching and learning project in the fall. So we're going to have to be much more rigorous, and that's why I'm very interested in hearing what you think are some of the weaknesses. Because honestly, I want to run that project as well as I can and tap on the resources that are around me. So then, do you have any tips on how we could improve this better for the next time?
I think in addition to what Julia was saying, I believe we need to work a little more on how to make that research, because again, sometimes it's your first time. I'm talking here as an employee, sorry, but also as a former graduate from Northwest College. I came here and I did my business administration diploma. And I believe, yes, there is a missing component of teaching how to make that survey. What I would like to add to the work is the extra step, and that's something I feel sometimes is missing, and is the capacity of making a full analysis and complement that with the services we have. For example, I would have been super open, and I think my team would have loved to have one representative for each group to come to our office, make a meeting, or go to a room and make a meeting, and just be open to questions. Once they have the first trial of the research and they know what are they looking for and what are they missing, then they can have that communication with us at meeting and start asking and bombard us with questions. Hey, are you doing this? Are you doing that? Which are the events we have here? Because with all those questions, sometimes we have those services in place, but there is a communication issue. Or we are communicating in the wrong places, and we need to understand which means of communications are we using, which are the means of communication they prefer to use, and find those points to be able to triangulate better. Sometimes I believe from some of the points here, if we can have that, then on the analysis they can say, okay, you know what? There are these events, we just need to better implement the communication. Maybe we need to have, a board in the entrance of the hallway, or whatever other idea. I would love to see what that analysis come and which are the new ideas, because that's how we can complement and build on top of each other.
Well, both of you have given me some excellent ideas. Thank you very much. So, Yulia, in terms of the questions asked in the initial study, what do you think some additional questions should be asked that might be helpful?
Mm-hmm. You are asking about questions to be included into the survey, right? That the students were asking. Yeah. Okay. I will answer maybe more in general terms, and yet I would say those should be questions, of course, open-ended to engage students, participants into discussion, into deeper answers. But those will be questions in my mind around motivation and values, because values underlie everything we do in life. They guide our motivations. So those questions will be golden if they are asked in the right way, and they are able to elicit really meaningful responses when participants, when they truly have an opportunity to reflect, why am I doing it? Why is it important to me? And I think if we get those understandings aligned, everything else aligns, right? Because this is truly the framework.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. And actually, that's I'm going to acknowledge that. I hadn't really thought about it, but for the fall, I'm working with a couple of other people, and they certainly have thought about it. So I'd like to ask you a follow-up question, Yulia. And what do you think, Yulia, are questions that lead researchers of this study need to ask themselves in order to understand whether or not the students have learned what they would like them to learn?
Those will be our values and motivations. Just to link it to the previous one, what am I hoping the students will get out of this project? How is it going to help them grow personally and professionally? Because this is what the CSL is for. It is meant for the students to build their professional skills. It is meant for them to be better self-aware and clarify their career goals, quite frankly. I will also link it to the fact that my position, well, it's one of the few. There are only 4 CSL faculty developers on the team, but we are part of a larger team, which is called WILSEC, a Work Integrated Learning and Education Center, and there are about 40 people, 40 of us. And we will always refer students back to our wonderful career coaches to investigate students' career goals, what they want to do, what they want to accomplish in their life. And always when I'm talking CSL to them or anything else, I say, just think about your goals, think about what you want to achieve, because, well, ultimately, this activity has to be purposeful, it has to be skill building, and it has to help them progress in life.
Thank you. Let me flip this question over to you now, Nicholas. What do you think are some additional questions that you think need to be added to improve this in the next step? And basically, what ideas do you have to make this project better?
Sure. First of all, I would like to add to what Julie was saying about personality and your values. I think values are very important. And we're talking about your professional and your personal development, right? So it's super important to have those there. Also, I would like to be more, not strict, but try to give more challenging view and push them a little hard. First, understanding what a qualitative and quantitative data means and how you approach to that data, especially because it's the first time for a lot of them doing research. We might have more experience from the academic point of view or professional point of view, but most of them, this is the first time they're doing a research. And they don't really know what to look for, or they're trying to understand, okay, this is what we want to know, but they don't know how to reach there. So having a combination on those 2 different sides, it's very important for getting the data and getting the analysis of the data out later. And again, in the last step, I will encourage them to reach different areas. Kind of related to the previous question, but kind of reach different areas at Norquest where they can check on the analysis they made, and of course pushing them a little bit farther and ask them to come with a solution. Even though solutions sometimes is not about what we can actually do, but it's the understanding of breaking the box, going outside of the box with your thinking and trying to find how you can manage the different resources and do something new that will have the best impact.
So in terms of the questions asked in the initial study, Nicholas, what are some additional questions that you think need to be added to improve it in the next step? And do you know how we can make this project a little bit better in the next step?
Well, for us, this is amazing. To be honest, with this project, we were able to triangulate part of the information we already have from previous SIF projects. Those are all Strategic Innovation Fund projects we have at Norquest. And being able to see what students are looking for and what we had before allows us to connect those key points and understand what we're doing and what we need to further advance, right? I think the most important part, or something that will be nice, will be giving the students the opportunity to talk with us while they are doing that research, right? When you're normally your first time doing that research, you're seeing too many different things, all of those at once, and then when you need to start checking on some data and you're finding things that are missing, I would love to tell them we are open there so they can come, shoot with all the questions they have. We can give them all the answers we have, and then they can be able to understand that, okay, maybe here there is a communication problem and there are services that solve these issues, but we're just not communicating in the right way. And that's a learning for us and a learning for them too. So those kind of options I think will be amazing for improving this kind of research.
I want to thank you both. I mean, I wouldn't be here without either one of you. So that's it. I've spent this last half hour or so asking you questions. Would you like to ask me anything?
And I have just one point. I think it might be helpful because at Northwest College, we actually do have experts, right, that are doing applied research, wonderful people who are working in SOTL as well, in curriculum development, so many professionals. And I believe some of them might be invited even as guest speakers, or they might be doing some kind of hands-on learning with the students, something like a workshop, introduction into research methods or something like that. That would be interesting, that would be engaging, and students will hear another perspective. I think it will help them solidify this. So I think these are all just wonderful developments, and I wanted to thank you both, Asif and Nicholas, for participating in this project. I personally enjoyed it a lot. I learned a lot, and students' presentations and critical reflections, they're always such a reward for the work.
I would like to know if for the future you're planning to have like Julia's team, my team, and maybe some other team at Northwest more involved with the students or not, because these are the first stages. But are you planning to involve other areas at Northwest here? I mean, Northwest International, we're always open to help you with this. I think the same with the Career Center, with Wilson, but maybe having other areas that students can consult, or where you can just, I don't know, join efforts for the students?
Take that as an invitation to come to both of you anytime
Yep.
I have questions.
Yep.
This is a SOTL project, and so Scholarship of Teaching and Learning, and so I'm in the process of getting permission from the Ethics Research Board, and I'm also sitting down with Jeff Kuntz and Kaylee Keller about how best to go ahead with this project. So we're still, at the initial stages of it, but they like what we saw, what we've done so far. But yeah, everybody agrees this is just a pilot study. It's not anything beyond that, and we do have to be more rigorous, and that's why I appreciate the feedback you've given me.
Perfect.
So thank you very much, Julia, for joining us and helping kickstart this project and talking to me very many months in advance of it actually starting. And eventually we had to make the change at the last minute because I moved into a different direction of teaching here. And of course, what contributes to the academic success of international students? Well, I'm here to tell you. I'm Asif Siddiqui. I am a business instructor in the Faculty of Business, Environment and Technology at Northwest College in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. I would like to begin by acknowledging that Northwest College is on the traditional lands referred to as Treaty 6 territory and the homeland of Métis Region No. 4. This land is home to many diverse groups of Indigenous peoples, including the Cree, Dene, Blackfoot, Saulteaux, Nakota Sioux, Inuit, and Métis. I also acknowledge that the City of Edmonton and all the people here are beneficiaries of Treaty No. 6, which encompasses the traditional territories of numerous Western Canadian First Nations, as well as the Métis people who have called these lands home since time immemorial. Northwest acknowledges the treaty, the land, and the territories of Indigenous people. Now, talk about what I'm going to be covering in today's presentation. I'm going to be talking about a community service learning project and how this relates to macroeconomics. I'm going to also talk about exactly what community service learning is, because it might be something that many of you are not familiar with. Second, I'm just going to put that research question out there, and that is simply how best to prime international students for academic success. Third, we've got some unique circumstances for our international students here at Northwest College, so I want to talk about those and how that would impact their academic learning. Fourth, I want to emphasize that this is that what I'm discussing today is just a pilot study, but it is something we're going to build up from. So we wanted to look at the international student success factors. I'll tell you about the study and the design and other things that we did. I'll also talk about the survey questions, and I'll talk about the main findings so far. And finally, I'm going to just go back to the idea that yes, this was a pilot study. Its results are not really generalizable, but we are going to make this into a full study in the fall. Well, think of community service learning, or CSL, as a mini will project. Okay, so instead of, people being involved and integrated into companies to the extent that they are, this is much less than that. Will and CSL usually involve local businesses. Yeah, much of the time it is local businesses. And sometimes, of course, in this era of the 21st century, it's easy enough to work with businesses that are in other parts of the country or even around the world. I've done all of those things in past will studies. This is a CSL study. Here, instead of going to a business, we went to college offices on campus, and we went to students, and we did our research by talking to them and getting information from them. So think of it as just a very, well, some people have described it as a micro will project. So that's what CSL is. Just talk about how this particular project of studying international students and how they can be helped to be more academically successful fits in with the macroeconomics class, because that's what I teach here. You got to remember, macro and microeconomics are substantially different from each other. Macro is much more involved with looking at how the government can function and how it can be successful and how it can serve the needs of its people. And don't forget, with macroeconomics, people think it's economics, and it's the economics that's driving the economic policy. Well, with macroeconomics, because the government is involved to such a great extent, it's actually really quite often the politics that is going to be driving the economic policy. And the fact of the matter is, governments do want to get reelected, and to do that, they want to please the people that they are serving. And so I looked at this project as a way to see, well, how best could Norquest serve the international student community that it is serving? So that was the main driver for this. College to prime them for academic success given their unique circumstances. And it'll be clear why I'm talking about priming them for academic success when you understand the unique circumstances here. Although they're not completely unique, I'm sure other colleges and universities also face this challenge. I nevertheless think this is something that's going to greatly impact the academic success of students here at Norquest and probably other places as well. So let me talk about the international student and Norquest College. So some of the programs here at Norquest can allow students to come here on a student visa for up to 3 years. This is for diploma and certificate programs. This is something that is, for diploma and certificate programs can be pretty long, and it's not something that's easily offered by other institutions. I know even some universities that don't offer that much. So Norquest is actually very appealing for students to come in here. But the thing is, why are we appealing to them? If it's for a 3-year visa, it might be because they really want to work here as opposed to really focusing on their academics, and that's the main issue here. So students come to Canada to work, and many eventually do resettle here. And as you might imagine, because they're so concerned with getting set up into a system where they've got a job lined up and they're ready to work, and they have to do networking, well, academics can take a back seat to the employment that they're doing at this time. So what happens is that a lot of the students here, what they really want to do is, they don't want to get kicked out of school or fail a class because, it's costly to do that, and eventually you might even lose your visa. You don't really want to do that. But what they want is a minimum passing grade for many of them. Yeah, I'm going to focus on, my employment, et cetera, but as long as I got a minimum passing grade, I'm going to be fine. I was actually approached by one of my superiors to look at how we could make international students more academically successful. And so I thought it would be good to do a pilot study. And I looked around campus and I thought, yeah, let's do it as a CSL project. It's not going to be a full-blown study at this point, but just a pilot study. So yeah, it was something that worked well. I talked to some of the people that are running CSL programs here, and yeah, they were all in on it. So I I only had 2 sections of my in-person classes to participate in this pilot study. We run both in-person and HighFlex classes here. For the HighFlex classes, I mean, they're held and the classes are shown to the students while I'm actually teaching them, and students can ask me questions. But one of the things about a HighFlex class is there is no obligation for any student to actually be in the city of Edmonton. So it would have been inappropriate for me to ask them to do anything. So I just took 2 sections of my in-person classes to do that. We made sure that any questions that we asked would not violate FOIP. We wanted to make sure that people's confidential information was always protected. And so after that, that was straightened out. We looked at offices at Norquest that would serve international students. And then we decided to use them as one of the locuses of research. And then of course, students were the other locus of research. So what were some of these offices? Well, of course, there's the International Center, but then we also have a tutoring center. We have health and wellness. We've got quite a few places here that are dealing with international students to a great extent. So we need to really first draw out who those offices might be, and then have our students approach them and try to get information. And then, of course, we also had our students who were doing the work on this pilot study go out and actually survey other international students themselves. Okay, so what was the research design? So students worked in groups of 4. And so if you have a group of 4, you had each student do a minimum of a survey of 2 international students. Now, I want to just say this. Some of the students were really enthusiastic about this, and they wanted to do many, many more. And I thought, well, this is just a good starting point. I said, all right, if you really just can't control yourself, you can do a couple more, but don't go beyond that. Like I said, this is a pilot study. When we do the full study in the fall, which is our intention, we're going to be much more rigorous with the design. But basically, we wanted to get some input at this point as to, what are some of the factors that could really help international students be more successful. We made sure that the research and the design were consistent with Ethics Research Board guidelines protecting those involved. And the main findings were written up for each group as a group. So we had survey questions that we would ask for people who were working at the offices at Norquest College, and we also had survey questions which we would ask of the international students here at Norquest College. Now, I'm not going to give a full and complete list, but here were the kinds of things we were asking the students and the offices. Let's begin with the offices. So what are the major problems that international students face? What do they think? They're running across students all the time. They're hearing a lot of stuff. What are they hearing? What are the effective ways to deal with these problems? Okay, and surely there must be some ways you've thought about and how to deal with these problems. What are the office's key goals and priorities for improving services for the coming year? I will say that, we're working with the idea that everybody wants to do a better job. I want to do a better job, and I'd like to think everybody else is. And so, so that was a really important point. We asked, do you collaborate with other college departments and or external organizations to enhance student support and resources? Because collaboration is now becoming increasingly important. There's a lot of gaps in the system, but if people work together, a lot of them can be eliminated. How does Norquest support extracurricular activities for students? Okay, so what facilities do we have, or do we give them incentives, or do we encourage them to maybe go to other facilities, go to other places, but what do we do to help them out? And how can Norquest increase this support? I put etc. at the bottom because I just want to make sure everybody realizes these are just some of the questions. This is not an all-encompassing list. It would take a very long presentation to do all the questions in the full research design, but you get the idea of what we're trying to do here. So we started off with some demographic questions. Are you an international student, being, the starting point? Visa status, age group, monthly income, source of income. Some students are working here. Some students are getting money from home. Some students don't have jobs. Some students, a few actually have enough money to come here on their own. So we want to look at that and see how that might affect things. Do you think Norquest is helping you become successful now? If yes, how? And some students were saying yes, they really appreciated the education they got here, and they liked the things they learned here. They found it helpful for other parts of their life. Other people saw it as, it was an opportunity for them to come to Canada and to connect and build networks and to go forward with their careers here. So, we asked students, what services are you aware of at Norquest? And what services do you need to improve your academic performance? These actually really go hand in hand. And we got some really interesting answers to that. And then, of course, while you're an international student, how do you get emotional support being away from your country and family and friends? I got to tell you, I am Canadian. I came here at a very young age, and I grew up here. But when I went to graduate school at McGill in Montreal, away from Edmonton, wow! I just got to say, it was rough. I didn't know how to cook food, etc., etc. It's a good thing I had people there who taught me how to cook the food I really like. So it was awesome. And do you think everyone is treated equally at Norquest? This was a response that the response to this question actually surprised me, but not in the way I thought I would be surprised, frankly. So let's just go ahead with this. So what are the main findings from the offices? Well, in terms of the need for academic supports, the students made it clear they need more academic advising, they need help with course selection, and a big thing, finances are important, so they want free ebooks. I encourage my students, I'm teaching, in addition to my macroeconomics classes, I'm teaching a business values and ethics class, and I'm encouraging my students to buy the book there. Some of them just really don't want to. I mean, they are working here, some of them, but it still can be a little bit of a hardship to spend that much money on a book, so they want free ebooks. There's need for other support, so students are not prepared to deal with the academic, financial, and cultural barriers. Look at it this way. Some of our students, especially from South Asia, are really young, very, very young. This might be the first time they're away from home. And, you can just imagine a lot of the challenges that throws up. And so, given this, we need to know, okay, what are these issues and how can we maybe think about the best ways to deal with them. Students also are saying they want workshop and training opportunities to help them deal with these issues. And that's really good information to have. And then another main finding of the offices was that international students need help accessing services. So students do not know how to access services, and free is important for a lot of them. So especially those that are free. So sometimes they need to. They'd like a little bit more publicity, etc., about getting the word out as to what might be available to them. Students often miss important information about networking, social, and career opportunities because of this. So have our main findings from surveying international students. And so some of the things they mentioned, they mentioned equitability and inclusion. International students feel that there are far more opportunities for Indigenous students. And this one was a little surprising. Some students felt discrimination within their peer student groups. So, okay, this is good to know because this is something, again, that we need to know about and try to deal with as a college because if we're ultimately talking about academic success, that's really important. Okay, physical activities and eating options. So students would like a gym, playground, etc. Sure, yeah, I 100%. I think a lot of the faculty would like the same thing. And then the students also pointed out the need for vegetarian options and quiet eating spaces. So we don't have an extensive list of places here, but we've got 4 places people can eat on campus, and then we're actually in a neighborhood where there's a lot of restaurants. We're one block over from Jasper Avenue, which is the main thoroughfare in Edmonton, and there's a lot of restaurants there too. I mean, we're not far away or anything, but this is something that was mentioned to us. And then overall, here's what the students were saying. Norquest does a lot to help international students achieve their goals. They have career supports, EDI, tutoring services, but there's always room for improvement. Okay, we've learned from the pilot study. We learned about some of the difficulties in carrying out the research. We learned some ways to better phrase questions. We want to take all of that and we want to do a full study now on improving the academic success of international students. And our plan is to run this as a scholarship of teaching and learning project starting in the fall of 2024. For this, full Ethics Research Board approval will be taken for both the design and the questions, and the study will be extended across 5 or more sections of macroeconomics. Even if it's a high flex section, we'll figure out ways for students that they can get involved. Finally, what we want to do is we hope to publish findings with students involved in the research, and we want them also involved in the writing of the final project. So this is a great opportunity for them. Publications are extremely big. So I've just given you a little bit of information about our pilot study that we just did here and about our future full study that we plan to do in the fall to think about what factors can help contribute to the academic success of international students. So I have told you the basics of the pilot study we conducted and some ideas of what we're planning to do in the future with the full study. Feel free to contact me. That's my name, Asif Siddiqui at norquest.ca. Thank you.